Tell me when we're live.
And we're live.
All right. So I still show a few more seconds
Okay.
left. Unless you're showing 10 o'clock.
Yeah, the thing already clicked over on the YouTube.
All right.
It's off by, there it goes.
So it's 10 a.m.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. This is the March 28th, 2024 Coastal Permit Administrator hearing. And I'll start out by noting that the Mendocino County Coastal Permit Administrator meetings will be conducted at 860 North Bush Street, Ukiah, California, and virtual attendance will be available via Zoom. Meetings are live streamed and available for viewing on the Mendocino County YouTube page. All right, so moving along, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10 a.m. And may I please get a determination of noticing of all cases?
All matters on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Thank you very much. That takes us to item number 3, which is the regular calendar, and moving to item 3A, which is CDP 2023-0009. The owner applicant is James and Denise D'Alba. Agent is Wind Coastal Planning and Biology. The request is to construct a single-family residence with attached garage, decks, roof-mounted solar panels, and septic system, destroy one existing well, and connect a second existing well to a residence through trenching. Additional trenching to connect to grid power, extend existing driveway and parking area, and convert existing cabin to an accessory dwelling unit. The project has been reviewed through environmental review, and its mitigated negative declaration has been prepared for the project pursuant to CEQA. The project is located in the coastal zone, 2± miles north of Casper on a private road, 600 feet plus or minus south of its intersection with Pacific Way, located at 33,389 Pacific Way, Fort Bragg. Assessor's parcel number 017-320-51. May I please get a staff report?
Yes, thank you. This is Liam Crowley, staff planner. I just would like to focus on one aspect of the staff report today, and that's habitats and natural resources. So a natural resource study was completed for this project, which identified several ESHA throughout the site. And due to the findings of this study and additional regulatory constraints, the least damaging location of development would still either be directly within ESHA or ESHA buffers, and is therefore inconsistent with the local coastal program. And accordingly, a takings analysis was included in the staff report to determine the appropriate amount of development that should be approved to avoid a possible takings claim while simultaneously maximizing consistency with the LCP. However, on March 15th, staff received comments from the Coastal Commission expressing several concerns regarding the proposed development and the takings analysis that was included in the staff report. And after receiving these comments, staff met with the agent to discuss them, and it was determined that additional review and project revisions may be required to adequately address the comments, including the preparation of an alternatives analysis to supplement the takings analysis. And therefore, the agent has requested that the project be continued to a date certain of May 23rd to allow time to compile the alternatives analysis and allow sufficient time for staff to review and address the comments from the Coastal Commission. So staff accepts this date and is available, and therefore would request that the Coastal Permit Administrator continue the project to the May 23rd meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So rather than going into all the details at this point in time, staff is requesting to basically reanalyze and bring it back on May 23rd.
Correct.
All right. Since this was requested by the agent, I see Amy Wynn is present. Go ahead, Amy. I'm going to go ahead and have you comment or speak on this as the applicant's agent.
Thank you, CPA Gonzalez and Staff Crowley. This is Amy Wynn, Wind Coastal Planning and Biology. We are the agents for Jim and Denise, who are the owners and applicant for this project. We are grateful to staff for their work through this project and through this process. I just have a couple of things to say, and yes, we would like to have this continued to May 23rd. Thank you very much for that. Obviously, it's quite shocking to receive a comment from the Coastal Commission at such a late date. I know this is always shocking, not just for the property owners, but for the CPA and staff. The project was submitted in February of 2023 and referred out in May of 2023 with no changes to the project since that time until the start. There have been no changes to the project. So to receive comments from the Coastal Commission at such a late date is untenable. I know you know that. It's just thank you for letting me express that. As we work through our alternatives analysis to support Liam's work with the staff report and the memo, there is one request that we will make of Liam. We've already presented the concept, and I just want to present it here, which is for the condition number 15, which is the geotechnical deed restriction. We have this just simply relative to the timing, since recording a deed restriction and getting it approved through county council takes time, especially when we're on the precipice of a build season. There, we do have examples of prior projects in recent history that have been able to have the timing of that be prior to final inspection or certificate of occupancy of any building permit associated with the CDP. So when we come back in May, and we've already made this request to Liam, we'd like to have condition 15 changed. We have at least three other projects where we've been able to have that condition be prior to final occupancy or prior to final inspection. And those are CDP 2019-0049, CDP 2020-0012, and CDP 2020-0024. And I'll email those examples to Liam after the hearing. I just took the time this morning to find those. So again, when we come back, we'll be asking staff and CPA to modify condition 15 for the geotechnical deed restriction to be required prior to final inspection or certificate of occupancy of any building permit associated with the CDP, rather than prior to issuance of the building permit. With that, I believe that Jim and Denise are on the line. If they want to say anything, they may not want to at this point. But again, thank you very much. Staff has been really very thorough through this process, and we look forward to May 23rd.
All right, thank you very much. So at this point, I am not going to go any further with this item and just basically look at a continuance to May 23rd. And at which time staff will do a full presentation on the staff report, the analysis, and the revisions that have been being proposed to the project. With regards to condition number 15, that is something that staff will have to review, potentially work with council on that to see if that's something that can be done sooner rather than later. If not, then again, that request can be entertained at that point in time and considered. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and continue item 3A, CDP 2023-0009 to May 23rd, 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the next item, which is case 3B, CDP 2023-0025. The owner is Carol Haynes. Applicant agent is Construction. The request is a standard coastal development permit to replace and restore exterior windows, cladding of main house, including larger windows facing ocean, demolish existing shop, and replace with two-car garage, reconfigure driveway approach to new garage, move on-site propane tank. Interior spaces include new bath, kitchen, and propane fireplace. The project has been determined to be categorically exempt from CEQA. The project is located in the coastal zone, 1 ± miles south of the town of Mendocino, 0.25 ± miles north of Chapman Road, private road on the west side of frontage B Road, located at 9500 Road 500B, Mendocino. Assessor's parcel number 119-32003. May I please get a staff report?
Thank you, Administrator. This is Project Planner Matt Goins. Because the project is a renovation of an existing single-family residence and replacing a shop with a garage, it maintains the principally permitted uses without converting or disrupting agricultural uses on the land. The renovation adheres to setbacks and height regulations and is compatible with the existing residential uses as defined in our zoning code. The property lies within a highly scenic area. However, the project is not changing or creating new sources of visual impacts. It focuses on replacing structures without altering their location or introducing visually disruptive elements. This ensures that the preservation of the existing visual landscape and maintaining consistency with the natural surroundings. A comprehensive geotechnical report was outlined several mitigation measures. These include removal of treatment of weak soil, retaining walls, should they be needed, not sure if they will be though, and drainage. The project aligns with Mendocino County Chapter 20.492, ensuring the site stability and maintaining, mitigating and preventing environmental impacts. The County Department of Transportation has stipulated conditions to prohibit any work within the right-of-way. Should the project require any work in said right-of-way, the applicant must obtain the necessary permits from the county DOT, an encroachment permit. Specific conditions are in place to address archaeological discoveries, lighting, fencing, and structural methodologies as per the geotechnical report. Additionally, a grading and erosion plan is required if grading exceeds specific limitations specified in the report. Therefore, staff finds that the project to be consistent with the findings as stated in the staff report and with adherence to the conditions of approval, staff recommends approval of the project. I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you very much. All right, do we have the applicant or the applicant's agent here?
Yes.
I
he's
know.
on.
All right, who would like to go first?
If you have anything to say at all.
I don't have anything to say. Do you have any questions for me?
No, just identify yourself for the
Okay,
record.
I'm the homeowner, and the agent or the constructor is on Zoom.
All right, and your name is?
My name's Carol Haynes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's see, is that Ishvi?
Yes.
Yes. You go ahead. Okay, so he is. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ishvi?
No, thank you for hearing this case. Matt has done a good job presenting it. I think that there's very little changes will be visible once this project is complete.
Okay, well, thank you. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this matter?
I do not see any.
All right, nobody's raised their hand, so I'm going to bring it back to the CPA. And at this point, I've gone ahead and reviewed the staff report, the evidence presented here, as well as comments presented here by both the applicant and the agent. And I will go ahead and take the action to approve the project pursuant to the findings contained in the staff report, as well as the conditions outlined in the staff report. So thank you very much. Your project's approved.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the next item, which is item 3C, CDP 2023-0039. The owner applicant is Scott and Elizabeth Wahlberg. The agent is Wind Coastal Planning and Biology. The request is a standard coastal development permit to authorize construction of a single-family residence with decks, attached garage, water storage tank, driveway, fence, and temporary occupancy of a trailer during construction. The development would also include connection to an existing well, municipal sewer system, propane tank, electric utility, and grading. A mitigated negative declaration has been prepared pursuant to CEQA, and the project is located in the coastal zone 1.5 miles north of Guala at the end of Big Gulch Road, 500 feet plus or minus west of its intersection with State Route 1, located at 47,101 Big Gulch Road, Guala, assessor's parcel number 145-121-18. Now please get a staff report.
Yes, thank you. This is Liam Crowley again, staff planner. So this project is in some ways a follow-up to a previous CDP that was approved in 2021. CDP 2019-0032 was originally submitted for the same scope of work as what's currently proposed, but was subsequently reduced in scope to allow only the drilling of 2 test wells. These wells were then drilled and tested for adequate water supply, and this application was then submitted to request authorization for the same development that was originally proposed, but had not been approved by that prior CDP. So this project site is within the rural residential RR5 zoning district, and the proposed development is a principal permitted use. The proposed development complies with applicable zoning regulations, including setbacks, height limit, fencing regulations, and lot coverage, and the site is not within a mapped, highly scenic area. A geotechnical investigation was prepared for the project, which recommended a bluff setback of 26 feet, and the proposed development has been sited outside of this bluff setback buffer. As was mentioned, the project would connect to Walla Community Services District sewage disposal system and would utilize an existing well which has been tested and demonstrates adequate water supply. An archaeological survey was conducted for the project, which did not identify any archaeological or cultural resources on the site. However, staff does still recommend that the discovery clause be included as a condition of approval to address any unanticipated discoveries. And an ESHA survey was conducted for the project, which identified several ESHA on the property. Almost the entirety of the parcel is overlain by ESHA or ESHA buffer, except for a small portion in the northeast corner located outside of the identified 50-foot ESHA buffer, and that's shown on the site map that was submitted with the application. And a least damaging area for the proposed development was identified, which would avoid the literal extent of ESHA besides a single coastal bluff morning glory individual. And a habitat mitigation and monitoring plan was prepared for the project, which outlines several measures to reduce any ESHA impacts within the buffer areas. So originally, staff had found that the project was consistent with the LCP policies and regulations regarding ESHA. However, staff did receive comments from the Coastal Commission on March 19th, expressing several concerns about these findings. And so with that, I'll just go over a memo that was prepared and posted that mentions these comments from the Coastal Commission. So essentially, the Coastal Commission noted that the project is inconsistent with the Mendocino County LCP, and that the county failed to consider denial of the project and possible takings claim because of this inconsistency. And the Coastal Commission also recommended that additional conditions of approval be incorporated into the CDP should the county determine that it must approve the project to avoid a taking. And so staff's prepared some additional information for the CPA's consideration in line with these comments. So first of all, I'll just try to go over these briefly. Staff does accept the comments from the Coastal Commission regarding inconsistency with the LCP and does concur. Because some of the development would be located within ESHA buffer and residential development is not an allowable use within ESHA, the development would technically be inconsistent with the Mendocino County Code and the LCP regarding ESHA regulations. And therefore, the findings that are contained in the staff report, specifically finding number 1, 8, 9, and 10, are incorrect. As I mentioned earlier, the only portion of the parcel that's outside of the mapped ESHA and ESHA buffers is a narrow triangular corner in the northeast portion of the lot. And so, based on these comments, staff addressed potential alternatives to the project that would either result in consistency with the LCP by siting development within that area outside of ESHA buffer, or would maximize compatibility with the LCP while allowing the minimum amount of development to occur within ESHA or ESHA buffers that would avoid a possible takings claim. And so this memo does include a full takings analysis of the project, which takes into account the presence of any reasonable investment-backed expectations, the degree to which these regulations may interfere with those reasonable expectations, and whether or not the regulation deprives the owner of economically viable use of the property. And so to aid in the analysis, staff used some information provided by the applicant about the costs incurred by the applicant and the owner. And in addition to that, several surrounding properties were analyzed to determine what a reasonable amount of development would be to allow to avoid a possible takings. And essentially the conclusions of this analysis were that the proposed project should be approved as proposed to avoid a possible takings, and that the existing configuration and scope of the project would minimize any ESHA impacts with the proposed conditions of approval incorporated, as well as the measures that are included within that, the ESHA documents that were submitted with the application. And so based on the results of that takings analysis, which is included in this memo, staff is recommending that the project be approved as proposed with some modifications to the findings based on those comments from the Coastal Commission, as well as the addition of several conditions of approval that were mentioned within the comments received from the Coastal Commission. And so just to go over that again briefly, there would be some corrections made to finding number 1, number 8, number 9, and number 10. And conditions of approval number 23, 24, and 25 would be added. And those conditions specifically would require that the applicant submit a map to Planning and Building and Services showing the locations of identified ESHA and ESHA buffers on the property, and that this map would be recorded with a deed restriction that's already required by a prior condition of approval. And also that the development should occur within the mapped least damaging area identified within the ESHA survey and the habitat mitigation monitoring plan submitted for the project, to protect the remaining ESHA on the site from degradation or encroachment. And lastly, that future use of the property outside of the development footprint and existing structure footprints would be limited to uses either allowed within ESHA and ESHA buffers or as outlined in the Coastal Zoning Code, and no future development as defined in the Coastal Zoning Code section 20.308.035D may occur within these areas without issuance of a coastal development permit amendment or a subsequent coastal development permit. So with that, as I mentioned before, staff feels that this takings analysis and the recommended changes to the findings and conditions adequately address these comments from the Coastal Commission, and staff would recommend approval of the project accordingly. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Quite a bit of analysis that was done here. Thank you. So just for the record, modifying findings 1, 8, 9, 10 for the memo dated March 26, and adding conditions 23, 24, and 25, again for the memo dated March 26, 24, which has been posted already. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. A lot of information to take in, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the applicant right now.
They are present, the agent is here.
The agent. Megan, go ahead.
Good morning, staff. This is Megan Durbin, Senior Planner for Wind Coastal Planning and Biology, agent for the applicant. First off, I want to thank Liam Crowley for his excellent work on this staff report and addressing the late comments submitted by the Coastal Commission last week. Basically here for any questions. We accept the, staff report and memo as written. Speaking to a note from an earlier project, we understand that it is currently the Planning and Building Department's or Planning Division's policy that the deed restrictions are required prior to building permit issuance. In our experience, and as referenced in guidance from the county about completing deed restrictions, it takes quite some time for county council to typically review those documents. And considering construction seasons, this can really impact and make the difference of an applicant being able to start the work and construction on their project from one year to the next. In this particular project, the applicants have certainly been through the ringer, having to reduce down their scope so much because of the comments about proof of water and water adequacy from the earlier CDP. So I just want to voice that if there was any way to make it such that the deed restrictions would be required to be recorded prior to final occupancy or filing of the building permits rather than the initial issuance, we would certainly welcome and support that and think that is suitable. As was previously noted, we have helped with a number of projects in the previous years that the deed restrictions were only required prior to final inspection or occupancy. Again, I understand that maybe the policy has changed since then, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least voice our opinion and advocate for the applicants. So with that, I'll step down from that soapbox and available for any further questions about the project.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter from the applicant side?
I do not show anybody raising it.
All right, now I'm gonna bring it back and I'm gonna open up the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this matter?
And I do not have any hands for that either.
No hands. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the CPA. And a lot of information presented here. And again, like everything else, the Coastal Commission has weighed in on this, typically at the 11th hour. I know that Liam mentioned that these additional requirements requiring mapping and so on will need to be recorded along with the existing deed restrictions. So it's really difficult for me to kind of just take that condition 15 away and say, let's defer to occupancy at this point in time without really thinking this thing out. So at this point, unless we want to continue the project and have staff look at this and write new condition language, I'm going to go ahead and move to approve as is with the modifications to findings 1, 8, 9, and 10, and adding conditions 23, 24, and 25, and leave the existing conditions alone. I will encourage staff to work with council on these to try to get these moving as quickly as possible and further direct the department to explore this with council so that if we need to change something in the future, we can do that. But I think at this point, I'm just going to leave it the way it is until such time. And I know that we are going through an LCP amendment process, and hopefully some of these issues can be aired out as far as how they become burdensome and how maybe perhaps these things could be postponed to occupancy. But I think a lot of times it's really difficult to just wait to occupancy when things should be done prior to the issuance of the building permit. So I'll leave it at that, and the project is approved, subject to the modifications of the findings pursuant to what's contained in the memo dated 3/26, and the modification to the conditions, again, as found in the memo dated 3/26/24. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and move to matters from staff. Do we have any matters from staff? No? All right, matters from the public.
Nobody is raising their hand.
Nobody's raising their hand on this one, so I will go ahead and move to item number 6, which is adjournment. And I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 10:29 a.m.